When you return, we can have a talk about your attitude." It was Baxter's favorite threat. Harper knew better than to worry. The sleepy-looking security guard at the reception desk didn't even glance up from the small TV on his desk as she hit the green exit button with hard impatience and hurled herself out of the building into the steamy darkness. June had arrived a couple of weeks ago, bringing blistering days with it. Nights were better, but only a little. Tonight, the air was velvet soft, but so thick you could stick a fork into it and expect it to stay standing up. This wasn't the usual Savannah humidity. This was like breathing underwater. Summer rain in Georgia is no minor threat. It can wash away your car, your house, your hopes, your dreams. And Harper glanced up at the gray clouds scuttling across the silver of moon as if they might tell her when the water would fall, but the sky had no news to give. The newspaper's offices were in a century-old, rambling 4-story building that took up half a city block on Bay Street, close enough to the slow-moving Savannah River to smell its green river scent and to hear the giant engines of the massive container ships rumble as they rolled slowly out to sea. The neon words Daily News glowed red from a rooftop sign that must have been one of the last things the sailors saw before the great Atlantic Ocean opened before them. Down the street, the ornate City Hall's gilded dome gleamed, even at this hour, and through a break in the buildings, Harper could see the cobblestone lanes leading down to the water's edge. She'd never lived anywhere except Savannah, so it had been a very long time since she'd paid much attention to its landmarks and antebellum architecture. To her, like the verdant town squares and endless monuments to ill-fated Civil War generals, it was all just there. She didn't spare any of it a glance now as she waited, one leg jiggling impatiently. Her scanner crackled on her hip. Ambulances were being called out. Backup was being sent. "Come on, Miles," she whispered, turning her wrist to see her watch. It was quiet enough for her to hear the faint wails of sirens in the distance as a gleaming black Mustang rounded the corner and roared straight towards her, headlights blinding. It stopped in front of her, the motor revving. Harper yanked the door open and leapt in. "Let's go," she said, strapping on her seatbelt. The tires spun as they sped off. Inside, the Mustang was alive with voices. Miles had one scanner on his belt, one mounted within the dash where there might otherwise have been a radio, and a third hooked up behind the gear shift. Each was set to a different channel. One monitored the main police frequency. Another was set to a side channel the cops use for chit-chat. The third monitored ambulance and fire. It was like walking into a small, crowded room where 20 people were all talking at once. Harper was used to it, but it always took her a second to make sense of the cacophony. "What have we got?" she asked, frowning. "Nothing new." He kept his eyes on the road. "Ambulance en route, waiting for an update." Photographer Miles Jackson was tall and lean, with dark skin and neat, short-cropped hair. He'd been a staff photographer until a few years ago, when all the photographers were let go. Since then, he'd been freelance, doing whatever paid the most. He could be found shooting a wedding on a Saturday afternoon and a murder later that same night. "If it pays, it plays," he was fond of saying. He had a cool, sardonic smile and liked driving fast. He was doing about twice the speed limit as they roared around a corner onto Oglethorpe Avenue, sending the car fishtailing. Swearing under his breath, Miles wrestled the wheel. "Doesn't this thing go any faster?" Harper deadpanned, hanging onto the handle above the door. "Very funny," Miles said through gritted teeth, but he quickly regained control. As they raced past Forsyth Park, where a huge marble fountain poured a hoop-skirt-shaped arc of water into a stone pool, she cocked her head, listening to the scanner. "They know where the shooters went?" she asked. Miles shook his head. "Lost them in the projects." As he spoke, the scanner for the police chit-chat channel lit up. A grave-deep voice growled. "This is 1-4, Unit 3907, what are we dealing with here?" Miles and Harper exchanged a look. 14 was the code number used by Lieutenant Robert Smith, head of the Homicide Division. Miles turned down the other scanners. "Lieutenant, we've got 1 fatality, 2 going to hospital."